Hey guys, how's it going? This is Tom Burkhardt for Car Revs Daily in the 2015 Buick Regal GS all-wheel drive. I'm not sure if you can see me. Hello. Going for a quick drive review. They're coming to get the Buick GS today, and you know, it's important to do a quick review of this car on video because I completely did not understand the vehicle for like the first 3 days that I had it. This Buick is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine making 259 horsepower. But as a result of the high boost setup and the performance characteristics of the engine, it's one that really needs premium fuel in order to deliver, you know, its turbo charms. But similar to the Ford Mustang EcoBoost, Buick has been pretty friendly to buyers and owners by saying that premium fuel is not required. It's just recommended to achieve those maximum power output ratings. But as a result, I got in the car and I'm pretty sure it was on regular gas when it showed up. So I really thought it was just like, I just wasn't that floored by it, and wasn't that put back in the seat when I floored it. So you know, it's important to do an updated video now that I was able to drive it down a little bit and got a half tank of gas in the tank, and the car is completely transformed. It's actually just a really joyful and chuckable sports sedan in the grand tradition of like the Audi S4 or Subaru Legacy GT. I mean, those types of all-wheel drive, sort of like mature luxury rally rockets, if you want to call it that. I think one of the biggest competitors for the Regal GS, now that we're calling it a luxury rally rocket, would be like the new Volkswagen Golf R. And the Golf R, despite being, you know, the most expensive Golf by far, is actually significantly cheaper than this GS, which comes in with a sticker price of about $42,000. And then with the 20-inch wheels we have here and a few other options, I believe the moonroof takes us up to about $45,000 even. So this Buick is pretty pricey, considering that this turbo engine in this exact power output and transmission setup is now available as the mid-level Buick Regal Turbo. So the real advantages of the GS for 2015 are style, handling, performance chops, and just like all the Autobahn and Nürburgring tuned goodies that come from the shared platform with the Opel Insignia OPC and the Vauxhall Insignia VXR. Okay, so, you know, and this is the dream. I mean, this is Buick bringing over some of GM's strongest product from Europe and selling it to American customers almost as is. I mean, with just the lightest sort of detailed tweaks to alter its traits to appeal to Americans. So how does that work? I mean, this is a perplexing car. It really is. It's just hard to understand because it does have it's sort of like small, and it's not as powerful as the Cadillac ATS, which comes, of course, in 2-door and 4-door versions. It's just sort of like a confusing vehicle, as well as being like $8,000 more expensive than the Dodge Charger RT with the Hemi V8 and rear drive that we had a few weeks ago. It's just really hard to get out of the Charger in any other performance car, and it's just sort of to feel the performance. So the Buick does feel pretty quick. It's got a really, it doesn't have a great interplay between the engine and transmission. Between first and second gear, there seems to be like too long of a lag, or perhaps too high of a spread. So the turbo engine sort of loses some of its oomph as you do make those shifts. And we do have a manumatic shifter here, which we can control with the gear knob, but no steering paddles, which is really bizarre for something that aspires to be, you know, effectively like a sports car for grown-ups. And but you know, the overall Buick trait of like very rare, incredible performance machines has kept a lot of like the buzz and the fire alive for the 2015 GS. Okay, so first things first. So is it a banker's hot rod? Let's ask. So this engine, making 259 horsepower, as we noted, scoots the car to 60 miles an hour in about 6.3 to 6.6 seconds, depending on the transmission and drive configuration. The Regal GS for 2015 has revised styling with some new headlights up front, new taillights in back with LEDs, and some other cool goodies. And that the Regal GS is available as a standard front drive car with an automatic transmission, first one, and then also a Regal GS with a 5-speed manual transmission, and then a Regal GS all-wheel drive, which is available only with the automatic. So the car, you know, it does feel special and it does really handle, but you know, it's almost got like too much grip for its own good and not really enough power. I'm just sort of like not super jazzed about it. Obviously, you know, if we were able to get a full tank of premium gas, that would be totally transformative for the overall performance and experience. But the downside of these 4-cylinder engines is when you're actually trying to like run them out of fuel, it's very, very difficult. They really don't. I mean, this thing is just really efficient. So despite driving it hard for days and days, I haven't had the opportunity to really go on the road and run the tank out. So would it be as transformed as it was with a half tank of 93 octane, as or even more transformed rather with a full tank? Of course, I'm sure it would. But there's still some confusing aspects of the car. The first and foremost being that you can get this powertrain in the Regal Turbo for $10,000 less. What the Regal Turbo lacks, though, is all of the performance chops that come with the Brembo brakes, you know, specially tuned dampers and suspension, special hyper strut front subframe front suspension setup to really drastically limit understeer and provide a lot more control when putting power down. You also don't have, I believe we don't have all-wheel drive available on the Regal Turbo. But don't quote me on that. And the Regal Turbo obviously just looks like the base, sort of like Eco Assist, I think is what it's called. They have like a mild hybrid as the base Regal. So, you know, the Regal GS really looks 1,000 times better, but is it 1,000 times faster? It's not. It's not. So that's pretty disappointing, especially coming out of the Charger RT, which, as we mentioned, is significantly larger, has much more power, significantly more power. Charger RT scoots to 60 miles an hour in just like 5 to 5.1 seconds, and that's with an 8-speed automatic and 370 horsepower Hemi V8. So that's up, you know, 120 horsepower and down more than 1.5 seconds. And those are types of like performance differences that you'll definitely notice. But one place the Charger doesn't have the Buick cornered is actually in cornering. This Buick, because it's all-wheel drive, I've been sort of like trying to break the grip loose. But down here in South Carolina in July 1st today, there's not really that much opportunity without a wet skid pad to get this car's tail end moving. So, but when you try, as you just saw me doing that little U-turn, you find out that this vehicle has like flypaper grip and is bananas. I mean, is like a ferocious rabid attacking hyena when it starts slipping. So we have traction control off right now, but we can switch stability control off as well by holding the button down. Just over here in a little construction site. Just hold it down here. Okay, TCS off. We'll press the GS button again, which changes the shift programming and adds a little more of an eagerness to the way the boost builds. And so the Regal, despite being like sort of a grown-up machine, is extremely playful on loose surfaces like this. I mean, this car will really hang its tail out and play. Is that what buyers want from the Regal GS or from, you know, a luxury rally rocket? Yeah, I think it is. I think they've done a good job in bringing this car to American audiences. They knew it was going to be a limited market set of people who were willing to go smaller and a little bit slower than some of the other vehicles available. But you know, there is a target market for whom there hasn't been a General Motors vehicle with this type of handling and Euro-tuned performance style and features for a long time. So it's exciting to see GM bring the car over. I just think it needs more work. It needs like 50 more horsepower, and I think it needs it just needs more to create a distinct appeal versus it's it'll definitely drift though. I mean, definitely in a pretty fun way. It just needs more. It needs more of everything to really achieve and deliver on its promise. But once you get it going on a surface like that, you really see that this is a fantastic all-wheel drive system with a really neutral and immediate shift of power to the rear axle. And also the fact that on surfaces that aren't loose like that, the car is totally unstickable. I mean, you can chuck this thing around like, you know, like it's a deflated football, catch it in a second. I mean, it's easy to catch, easy to throw, easy to play with, and really confidence inspiring for people who just love the feel of just like that constant all-wheel drive, in control type of like unflusterable handling poise. It reminds me of some of the best aspects of my Subaru's all-wheel drive system, my previous Legacy GT from 05, which was a wagon. Excuse me. But it's a little more, it doesn't track as true going straight ahead down the highway. This car is, it's sort of like, it's always kind of like pretty on edge and pretty eager, which on country roads like this leads to like a little bouncing around, and you have to pay attention to keep it in lane. But overall, I think the Regal GS, like we said, you know, delivers a terrific option for consumers. This is a broad General Motors performance lineup at this point, with the ATS 2.0T coming in with a price from about $38,000 to $40,000. I think we would recommend that one over this Buick. Haven't driven the ATS 4-door, just the coupe with the turbo. And that Cadillac, I have to say, it feels like a significantly more special and significantly more sort of like love at first block type of drive. Whereas this Buick is definitely not like a love at first block. This is a car that's like, it's a grower. You become, you know, a lot fonder of it over time, but you know, that's kind of like makes it a hard deal to close. Like nobody, you know, very few people are willing to go and actually drive a car these days, test drive a car, and be stalked by a salesman. So once they do go drive it, you really have to make a good impression like right away in order to close the deal. And I think that the ATS makes a much better impression and a much better go of swaying buyers who, in this ultra competitive sort of like you know, genre-defying segment of a $40,000 to $45,000 performance mainstream, premium mainstream. I mean, lots of like subtleties and vagaries in the genre here for the Buick Regal GS. But I think if you were driving this car and coming from something that really didn't have that like fantastic sort of like rigid German tuning of of all of its performance traits, not its ride necessarily, it actually rides pretty well, but just like sort of a ruthlessly Germanic approach to how good it has to be at specific tasks, then I think you'll love the GS. And you know, as the week went on, I really warmed up to it as well. But there is a final caveat. If you are a performance driver and love to go fast, premium fuel is not just recommended, it is an absolute must. It totally transforms the Regal GS from sort of like a fairly underwhelming proposition to a pretty chuckable pocket rocket that happens to have, you know, leather seats, pretty good features, and a refined and mature style that's, among car guys, you know, they're going to know that this is like a cool and special machine on these gorgeous 20-inch alloys. But for most other people, they just, you know, will think it's some kind of Audi or BMW, or may even know it's a Buick, but won't be in on the secret that this is the really, that this is the GNX for the 2015s. So, well, this has been Tom Burkhart in the Buick Regal GS. Maybe a GSX Buick Regal would be up our alley as well. You know, like the Subaru WRX versus WRX STI. Obviously, the STI with that, you know, 100 more horsepower becomes a totally different proposition as well. So, Regal GS, maybe 359 horsepower. Sounds good to me. All right, see you later.